Hey everyone, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Tonight, I'd like to talk about one of my favorite cartoon shows that I love to watch on the Disney Channel during the early 2000s, Disney's House of Mouse. Created by Robert Gunaway and Tony Craig, and lasting for about 3 seasons from January 13, 2001 until October 24, 2003, the show focuses on Mickey Mouse and his gang running a cartoon theater dinner club in the fictional Toontown, catering to many characters from Disney cartoons and animated movies while showcasing a variety of their cartoon shorts. This animated series is a spin-off of the popular short-lived Disney series Mickey Mouse Works and featured many Mouse Works shorts, as well as a selection of brand new shorts. And, well, classic Mickey Mouse, Goofy, and Donald Duck shorts from the 1930s to the 1950s. During its time, the animated series held 2 nominations for awards, while select cast members won 2 awards for their performances as characters in the House of Mouse. During my childhood, I was first introduced to this show back in December 2001, when I watched Mickey's Magical Christmas snowed in at the House of Mouse. And ever since then, I thought this show was absolutely fun, not only with great cartoons, but a great use of Disney characters. However, since Halloween is almost here, let me take you guys back to a full-length movie where a group of Disney rogues come together to take over this cartoony nightclub. Released to video and DVD on September 3rd, 2002, the movie is Mickey's House of Villains. So, let's get started. It is Halloween night at the House of Mouse, and a lot of Disney villains are showing up. Jafar has a trick in store for Mickey Mouse, but the villains have to wait until midnight for him to unleash it. After a series of classic Disney cartoons, Jafar, along with several other Disney villains, take over the club. So, it's up to Mickey Mouse and his gang to stop Jafar and return the House of Mouse to normal. So, what do I think of it? Well, it's a tad cheesy and silly, and the dialogue is a tad corny, but that's the reason why I love it so much and watch it every year on Halloween. Plus, it's packed with all sorts of Disney fun. But to further explain why I love this movie, let's move on to Mustang Notes. The movie was produced by Walt Disney Television Animation, with animation production by Toon City Animation and additional animation production by Walt Disney Feature Animation Florida. Also to note, the events of this movie takes place during the show's 3rd and final season. Now, what are my thoughts on this movie's animation? Well, in my eyes, the animation is pretty good, and it does stay true to the TV show. And I love the animation with each cartoon that plays throughout this movie. Some of my favorite parts in this movie are when Donald Duck tries several attempts to scare everybody while he's in his devil costume. And I like the final climax at the end of the movie when Mickey fights Jafar while wearing Master Yen Sid's hat. You know, this battle feels kind of like the time when Mickey fought with Maleficent in Fantasmic. But unlike in that fight, where the Disney villains were destroyed, Jafar gets defeated by getting sucked into his lamp, while the other villains just flee for their lives. Now let's talk about the song featured in this movie, which happens to be the villain song. It's Our House Now, sung by Jafar, Cruella de Vil, Ursula, and Captain Hook, as they attempt to take over the House of Mouse. In my opinion, it's cool enough when a villain song is sung by one Disney villain, but here, it's more amazing when a group of Disney villains sing. And as the song progresses, several other villains join in, like Pete, the club's landlord, Hades from Hercules, the hitchhiking ghosts, and several other ghosts from the Haunted Mansion, Cyan Am from Lady and the Tramp, Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty, Chernabog from Fantasia, the Big Bad Wolf from the Three Little Pigs, who takes over as Technician, Kaa from the Jungle Book, the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland, and many, many more. Plus, what they do to Mickey and the other characters is really devious and villainous. You see, they toss Mickey and his gang into the streets while locking the other characters in the kitchen. However, the best part about this movie are the many cartoons featured throughout this movie. In fact, some of these cartoons make me think back to the old Halloween specials that I once watched on the Disney Channel a long time ago, like Disney's Halloween Treat and a Disney Halloween. The first cartoon in this movie is the classic Trick or Treat cartoon from 1952. Starring Donald Duck, his nephews Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and Witch Hazel, voiced by the late June Foray. In this cartoon, after Donald Duck plays a cruel Halloween prank on his nephews, the three team up with Witch Hazel and her broomstick Beelzebub to teach him a lesson about tricks and treats. In my opinion, this cartoon is a Halloween classic, and I really like the Trick or Treat song performed by the Mellowmen. Also, I think Hazel is a kind, crafty, eccentric, and cunning character, and I like when she uses her magic to bring a jack-o'-lantern to life, turns 3 fence posts into ghosts, and she takes control of Donald Duck's feet. Plus, she kind of reminds me of Madame Mim from The Sword and the Stone due to the way she talks. And I think her broomstick, Beelzebub, is pretty similar to those brooms from Fantasia, except he doesn't have arms. Our second cartoon, which happens to be from Mickey Mouse Works, is Mickey's Mechanical House. Narrated by former Monty Pythonite John Cleese. In this cartoon, Mickey is fed up and moves out due to his old house being ragged, broken, and noisy all the time. So he finds a brand new house, which is electric and automatic from the tub to the phone. But as Mickey stays there, he finds that this house is not considered as home to him. In my opinion, this cartoon feels pretty similar to Disney's Smart House due to the technology in Mickey's new home. Also, I didn't even realize this until recently, that the robot in this cartoon is the exact same robot featured in Mars and Beyond from the Disneyland show. Next we have a Goofy cartoon known as How to Haunt a House. Here, Goofy temporarily becomes a ghost in order to demonstrate how to haunt the living. First, Goofy chooses a house to haunt. Then, he selects Donald Duck as his hauntee, or victim. Then, Goofy does a few creepy things, like opening the front door, sneaking about with a bedsheet draped over him, turning out the lights in the bathroom, and making scary sounds to creep Donald out as much as possible. To me, this cartoon is very entertaining, though I wouldn't want to try all these antics at home, or I might hurt myself. And I do like Corey Burton's narration. It feels kind of similar to his ghost host voice from the Haunted Mansion Holiday. Also, I do like the part where Goofy goes into his Jacob Marley form from Mickey's Christmas Carol. And I do like Mickey and Clarabelle's cameos during Step 2. Now we come to one of my favorite classic cartoons, Lonesome Ghost from 1937. In this, 4 ghosts at the McShiver Mansion are bored with having nobody around to scare. So, they decide to call the Ajax Ghost Exterminator Company, which consists of Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and Goofy. When the trio arrive at the mansion, they become the subject of the ghosts' various pranks, and eventually frighten them off when they crash into a mixture of flour and molasses, which makes them look like an even more frightening trio of ghosts. In my opinion, this cartoon is laugh out loud hilarious, and like many Disney fans, I think it's become one of the most famous cartoons featuring the trio. Also, some folks believe that this cartoon was the inspiration for the movie Ghostbusters. For 2 reasons. One is that Goofy says the famous quote from the Ray Parker Jr. song, and the other is that Mickey and the gang start out as 3 guys running a ghost extermination company. So, in a way, Mickey, Donald, and Goofy could be the very first original Ghostbusters. Also to note, the Lonesome Ghosts were originally planned to be included as part of the Haunted Mansion alongside other Disney ghosts. But, at least nowadays, they live in the Lonesome Manor in the Wasteland. Plus, the ghosts also got to appear in Mickey Mania and a CD-ROM game called Search for the Secret Keys, which was a really fun game during my TLC age. Next we have Dance of the Goofies. This short consists of a group of Goofy fairies who come out to close all the flowers every night. When the goofiest Goofy fairy causes his boss to be captured by a young boy with mad scientist ambitions, he must overcome his goofy shortcomings and come to the rescue before his boss becomes a science project. To me, this short is just okay. I mean, it's not really great, though. It feels kind of like a short that could have been in Fantasia. Plus, Goofy as a fairy is kind of strange. But then again, they did make Donald into a seagull one time. Anyway, I think the music in this cartoon is pretty good, and the plot does capture some good Goofy humor. Plus, I think this bad kid in this cartoon feels like another Sid from Toy Story, except he does mad scientist skills on bugs instead of toys. Next is the last classic cartoon, Donald Duck and the Gorilla from 1944. In this short, Donald Duck and his nephews hear on the radio that a killer gorilla named Ajax has escaped from the city zoo. As a prank, Donald and his three nephews scare each other, but suddenly the real Ajax appears and breaks into the house. So Donald and the boys have to find a way to subdue him. In my eyes, this short is not one of my favorites from the old days. I mean, yes, the part where Ajax is chasing Donald is very dangerous and humorous, especially with Donald's tail giving Ajax an eye poke. But I don't like the scene when Donald gets enraged over his nephews accidentally burning his tail feathers with a candle. Plus, for some reason, Dewey is dressed in orange instead of blue in this short. Also, I felt that the ending was kinda weak, with Donald and Ajax crying due to the effects of tear gas. Also, the scene where Donald looked Ajax in the eye was pretty stupid, since you should never, ever make eye contact with a gorilla. After the villains take over, we next have Donald's Halloween Scare, which happens to be one of my favorite cartoons from Mickey Mouse Works. In this, Huey, Dewey, and Louie go trick-or-treating and receive treats from Mickey, Minnie, and Goofy. They then visit Donald Duck's boathouse, but unfortunately, Donald, disguised as a scary man with a hook and a hockey mask, scares the boys away and takes their candy. The boys then discover Donald's trick and make a plan to get back at him. In my opinion, this cartoon is not just eccentric, but it's also very humorous in a few parts. Plus, the plot felt pretty similar to the Trick or Treat cartoon from earlier. In my opinion, the funny parts in this cartoon were when the boys are dressed up like Police Chief O'Hara, and when Goofy is dressed up like Santa Claus at the end of the cartoon, despite the fact that he was dressed like the Easter Bunny with a cardboard tree tied to his waist earlier. Also, I liked that Minnie was dressed like a witch, and Mickey was dressed as a vampire. And I find it pretty clever that Mickey was hiding in a Mickey-eared coffin with candy inside. Plus, we get a little Figaro cameo in Minnie's cauldron. However, the scene where the boys are pretending to be zombies was really horrifying. And I think Donald's costume makes him look like a mix of Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th franchise and the fisherman from I Know What You Did Last Summer. Jeez, Disney, I can't believe you guys nearly got away with that. Our last cartoon is Hansel and Gretel. In this, Mickey and Minnie play as the titular children in a musical retelling of the classic fairy tale. To me, this cartoon is pretty similar to the Dance of the Goofies cartoon from earlier, due to it not having any dialogue in it. But on the other hand, I think Camille Saint-Saëns' Dance Macabre music seems very fitting with the story. And speaking of story, I think this version of Hansel and Gretel is very twisted, dark, and thought-provoking. And I think the final climax inside the witch's oven is very intense, Plus, the chase scene has a few Indiana Jones references. And now, let's move on to the characters and their voice actors. My hero, Mickey Mouse, is voiced by the late Wayne Allwayne. Mickey operates the club as general manager and co-owner, but he leaves the club's management to his friends. His main role in the club is hosting the evening's entertainment as its showbiz superstar. You know, I really like Mickey's intros before each cartoon plays. In fact, I like the part where he gives a little shout out to Chernabog, Hades, and the hyenas from the elephant graveyard. And I think his battle with Jafar was really awesome, especially with Aladdin's help. Mickey's girlfriend, Minnie Mouse, is voiced by the recently departed Russi Taylor, who has also voiced Phantasma in Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School, Drizella and Fairy Godmother from the Cinderella sequels, and several nurse mice from the Rescuers Down Under. Minnie operates as the club's show planner and bookkeeper, and she's responsible for the club's day-to-day administration. Her performance at keeping the club running well makes her a pillar of support in times of crisis, especially in keeping Mickey calm when he panics over a situation. Now, Minnie's role in this movie doesn't really add much, but I do like the scene where she gives Jafar 30 seconds to turn the House of Mouse back to normal before Captain Hook throws her out. Next we have Donald Duck, voiced by former animator Tony Anselmo. Donald operates as the club's deputy manager, responsible for the overall customer service at the club and tending to the needs of VIP guests. Although a co-owner of the club, he is very envious of Mickey's fame and position, and he tends to want to run the club himself, though his efforts are usually thwarted by his conscience preventing him from betraying his friendship with Mickey. And as I stated earlier, Donald has been trying to scare everybody throughout this movie. I mean, he tried with the Beast and the Goddesses of the Fates. But during the ending, I found it pretty funny when Donald dressed up like Jafar. Donald's girlfriend, Daisy Duck, voiced by Trez MacNeille, operates as the reservation clerk for the club, and she often dreams of being a star in her own right, which often sees her attempting to try out a new act in the club that often backfires. Now, like Minnie, Daisy's role in this movie isn't as big either, but in one scene, she says that Donald is barely a squeal when it comes to scaring everybody. Next we have Goofy, voiced by Bill Farmer. He operates as the head waiter, managing the club's restaurant operations with his usual accidental prone yet generous manner of work. Despite this difficulty, Goofy manages to ensure guests receive their meals without issues. Goofy's waiter assistants are the penguins from Disney's Mary Poppins. In one scene, Goofy mentions the time when he wore skin-tight yellow leotards during the dance of the Goofy cartoon, which he thought was a really spooky experience. Other members of the club are Mickey's dog Pluto, who operates as the club's mascot and assistant, Horace Horsecollar, whose job is to play the animated shorts when ready, Goofy's son Max, who works as parking valet, and Mike, voiced by Rod Roddy, who works as the club's announcer. Next we come to the leader of the Disney villains, Jafar from Disney's Aladdin, voiced by Jonathan Freeman. During this movie, Jafar leads a whole group of Disney villains to take over the House of Mouse as a Halloween trick for Mickey Mouse. To me, I think Jafar's motivation for doing this is because he doesn't want to be a dull villain on Halloween, which I find is pretty understandable since Halloween is every villain's favorite holiday, even during Disney's Halloween time at Disneyland. The other Disney villains in Jafar's group are Captain Hook from Peter Pan, voiced by Corey Burton, who also voices Chernabog from Fantasia, Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians, voiced by Suzanne Blakesley, and Ursula from The Little Mermaid, voiced by Pat Carroll. And now let's move on to my final words. Overall, Mickey's House of Villains is a decent and fun Halloween movie. The animation is zany, and the voice acting can sometimes be a tad corny, but I did like how the Disney villains' plot ties in with the Halloween season. Mickey and his friends are great as usual, and the scene where Mickey gets back at Jafar was really amazing. But the best part about this movie was watching the many modern and classical Halloween Disney cartoons. In fact, I feel so old while watching them. So, if you folks are fans of the House of Mouse series, or Disney fans in general, then by all means, go watch this movie, and be sure to share it with your children during this spooky season. I give this movie a rating of 87% out of 100. Well, that's all for tonight. Be sure to join me for one more Halloween blog, which will also be my 400th episode. Mustang Power.